Hey, how's it going, everyone? So what am I working on now? Well, I got my daughter's 2017 Hyundai Santa Fe. Last night, she was coming home. We'd all met for dinner. So we all had three separate cars out, when we met for dinner. So Meg and I had to go one way, my daughter had to go another way, and then we were all going to meet at the house afterwards. So Meg and I ran over to the store together, took two separate cars, ran to the store, finished there, and then we went our separate ways to come home. She was in the middle of a phone call, so I just hopped in my truck, I left. So I knew Meg was going to be behind me at some point. She might have taken a different way. I went one way, she might have gone another way. But anyway, so I almost get home, and my phone starts ringing. That's my daughter. Said, I don't know what happened. She goes, my car just died. Okay. Describe to me what happened. So she says, all of a sudden I lost power steering. All my lights started flashing on the dashboard. And she was like, I was able to pull into one of the dollar stores, into their parking lot. So I was like, well, what dollar store are you at? There's like a million of them. So she says, well, remember the shady gas station I told you I would never go into? And I know the one she's talking about. And I was like, yep. She goes, the one right across the street. I'm like, okay. I said, I'm almost home. Let me just go home. I said, it sounds like you lost a belt or something, possibly. So I said, let me run home. Let me take care of the dog real quick, and then I'll come out to you. So I said, do me a favor, open the hood. He said, you know where the belt is? She says, yeah. I said, check to make sure the belt is still on there. So she goes out there, she checks, she says, yeah, the belt is still there. I'm like, okay. Lost steering. Well, I'm pretty sure that car's electric power steering. I wasn't sure at the time, but I was pretty sure of it. Anyway, I go take care of the dog. I meet her there. Meg meets us there. One of her friends from work happened to be in the area. He stopped by. He goes by the name Mater. So, the Mater, or I'm sorry, Tater. Why did I call him Mater? Tater. He goes by Tater. But anyway, so we realized the battery terminal was loose. I love Tater to death. Tater treats my daughter like it's his daughter. Him and I are about the same age, and he treats her like that's his daughter. He looks after her and stuff like that. So I really appreciate him for that. Anyway, so him and his wife were there. We were just talking. We were looking, and terminal was loose. So I'm thinking, okay, it's possible with the terminal being loose that it wasn't putting a sufficient charge into the battery, and eventually it just went bad, or just went dead. So we wound up getting the terminal tight, jump-started it, everything seemed fine. Had it running for a while, she was going to drive it home. All of a sudden it did the same thing. All the lights went dim, they started flashing, everything else, and the car died. Well, that's not it. Obviously, it's not charging. Excuse me. So we shut everything down on her car. I go and I hook the jumper cables up to it, and I have it jumping for quite a while. And then I told her, okay, this is what we're going to do. I'll drive in front, you drive in the middle, my wife drives in the back, and you drive with no lights on because now it's late at night. So I had my hazards on, my wife had her hazards on. I told her, I don't want you to have anything on. So we got the windows down while I had the jumper hooked up to it. At least this way, I didn't want her draining it while she was driving it. So we got it started. We were able to get it home. Got home late, but we were able to get it home. So sure enough, it's not charging. And like I said, it's a 27 Hyundai Santa Fe, 3.3 V6. I did an alternator on one of these a long time ago. I don't recall a lot about it. If you look up the procedure, it says unbolt alternator, remove, install new one. That's all involved. It's not easy to get to if I remember correctly. I don't like where it's located. I just don't remember what's involved in it. I think I got to loosen the motor up and lift it. Not 100% positive. But I'm doing this at home. I don't have any tools, so I got to make a Harbor Freight run. Okay. So, but anyway, here I have my little scanner. Now, this is the King Bolin S600. And King Bolin and Launch, I believe, work simultaneously together and make different scanners that you can use. This one is quite similar to the larger one that I've showed you before that I paid $460 for. King Bolin is actually the company that I purchased it through. They like the fact that I like that scanner a lot. So they're like, hey, can we send you this scanner? We want you to test it out. Now, I do have a policy to where I won't accept stuff from people for reviews. Unless it makes complete sense, like this does, but I won't take any money for it. I don't want to get paid for it. That's not what I'm doing it for. If I'm going to review a product, I'm going to tell you, hey, it's good, hey, it's not good. And I'm going to be honest about it. I don't want anybody to pay me for it. I'm not taking payments for anything. You want to send me the scanner? You want me to review it? I'll do so. But I'm going to be honest about it. And they said, that's fine. You know, we feel confident in our product. Well, guess what? It's the same as a launch. But this is a less expensive version. This doesn't do as much as that other scanner. It does have a couple of neat features to it, and I will get more into that as we go along. But one thing I want to show you real quick is on the main screen, it actually shows you battery voltage, which is quite helpful. But this car does have a check engine light also, so we're going to get into that. But let me just show you real quick. So if you look top, it's showing 11 volts. Now, I have not charged or anything. I don't even have a battery charger here. So, oh, it's actually too dead to even start. I'm going to have to jump start it. Yep, okay. Well, we're not going to be concerned about that. I was going to show you, because I wanted to see what the code was, but now I'm not overly concerned about it. I'm pretty sure it's going to be a charging type code. So now, I got to change the alternator. I have almost no tools, so I'm going to have to make a Harbor Freight run. My floor jack, I think I've told you about that in the past, the one that I've had since I was 16 or 15, it finally died. That was a Sears Craftsman special that I believe I got at the time for like $69. It's a 2-ton floor jack. And I've had that thing. So if I got it when I was, say, 16, you know, it's 40 years old now. And it finally gave up on me. It finally, like, you go to jack something up, it'll jack it up, and then it'll just come back down. It's a seal going in it. Do I want to fix it? I don't know. It's been a good jack. I probably will, but I'm going to have to buy a floor jack regardless. So, but anyway, let me just show you what's going on with this thing and what I have to do. So here we are in my little home shop. Here is her Hyundai. And the alternator is down there. That's it, down there. So, like I said, it says in order to change it, unbolt it and remove it. That's all it says. But I'm pretty darn sure I got to jack this thing up. I'm pretty sure I got to take this mount free and lift the motor up to get that thing out. Not 100% positive, but I believe that's what I have to do. So I do have some tools here. I have a Harbor Freight tool kit, and that's like a basic kit. I think it was 120 bucks, and I love the kit. It's actually very good. The tool quality is extremely good. I will give it that. But yeah, I'm gonna make a Harbor Freight run and see what I can't pick up. I got to pick up a floor jack. I have to pick up a few things. I'm gonna talk to the manager too, see if it's okay if I film inside the store. I want to make sure. Their website says you can. I just want to be positive. I don't want to cause any issues. So let me go ahead, let me go forward and do that, and we're going to go from there. Let me get some tools. I sat there and thought about it for a second. I'm like, wait a minute, I actually do have a charger here. Forgot all about it. I've had this charger since I had my shop back in, I think I bought this thing back in 1989. So, yeah, I actually had it in the shop, in the garage next door, and I forgot all about it. So I brought it over and stuffed it in there, forgot all about it. But anyway, so I got that hooked up. I got that charging when I go over to Harbor Freight. And it's putting a good charge in it. That thing's ancient, but man, it still works good. So I'm happy with it. All right, so let's get that charging while I run over to Harbor Freight. Okay, so we're back in the garage now, and I'm going to start working on my daughter's car once again. I haven't gotten to it yet. I got to remember to disconnect the battery. I got my light here from Harbor Freight, and let's see. Yeah, that's actually pretty bright. Let's see how long this thing lasts. But the alternator's down there. So I'm going to actually take this upper mount bracket off, and I'm going to see how far I could jack up on the motor to get that thing out. I'm not quite sure what's involved in doing this, because like I said, the procedure says simply unbolt it and remove it. The procedure doesn't tell you anything. So, what are you going to do? Okay, so I'm going to start by removing that upper bracket there. And I'm doing this all by hand. And I have my Harbor Freight tool kit, my basic kit. Buy some tools yesterday, but I'm going to start with this. And I want to see how much I can get done just using this basic kit. And, you know, I got my roll cart assembled, but I haven't put any tools away yet. I got to get her car up and running because she has the grandkids that she has to take care of in the morning. get them off to their sitters and stuff like that. So let me get this going, and I'll show you what I'm doing as I go along. So with that upper mount bracket out, and I may actually take this mount out itself, I was able to jack it up. I have a jack underneath there. I have a block of wood between the oil pan and the jack, and it raised up quite a bit. So now the alternator's right there. Now I got to take the belt off. The belt on these, they have a nut down at the bottom. Kind of hard to see where this is at, but you can see where the socket's going. It's a 19 millimeter, and it grabs the back side, or the edge rather, of the tensioner. So now when you do this, you take tension off the belt. So once I get the belt off, maybe you could see that a little better. It's kind of hard. It's dark in here. I still got to put lights in here and stuff like that to make this a little better. You know, this is kind of what I'm dealing with right now, but hopefully at some point we'll figure something else out. But that's for right now. All right. Now, one other thing, I get asked this question, believe it or not, quite often. Let me just shut this light off for a minute. I get asked this question quite often. You say, you know, what kind of music do I listen to when I'm working in the shop? Well, I listen to a lot of different stuff, mostly rock related, rock and roll. I'm a heavy metal guy myself. I was raised on like Metallica, Judas Priest, Ozzy Osbourne, Manowar, you know, all of those groups like that. Diamond Head. So like today, I actually have Suicidal Tendencies playing on my Pandora, but with that, when you play something like that, it plays all sorts of different stuff. Like I was just rocking out to some Cinderella. Love Cinderella. I'm a big Suicidal Tendencies fan, and you know, back in the day when I was growing up, that kind of music spoke to me. If you actually listen to the words of a lot of these songs, they tell you something. They really do, and they helped influence me and my way of thinking and being a good person, because that's, if you really listen to heavy metal, that's what most of it's about. It's about being a good person, and that's, at least that's what I get from it. So I'll never forget when Metallica came on the scene, blew everybody away. It was just like nobody had ever heard anything like that before, and they were loud, fast, raw, and you could understand them, and that's what made them popular. So, but anyway, I'll listen to Primus. I'll listen to Enya. Yes, I'll listen to Enya. I'll listen to 10,000 Maniacs, all that stuff. I listen to just about anything and everything, except country music. Sorry if you're a country music fan. Can't stand it. Anyway, so let me get back to this. So now with the belt off, this little cover here, get a screwdriver behind the edge of it and pop it, and it'll come off. So it'll expose that 14 millimeter screw. Then you take that 14 millimeter screw out to take that idler pulley out, and then the alternator should come out relatively simple. I hope. We're going to find out. It should be 2 bolts. I'm not 100% certain, so what I'm going to do is grab the new one and look at that and just verify. Like I said, I do have the battery disconnected. I do have a charger on it because I want to make sure it's fully charged when I get this thing all back together. So with the belt out of the way and that idler out of the way, as you can see down there, there is a bolt up there, 114, and there's 114 down there, comparing it to the new alternator there. So let me get those 14s out, and then hopefully I should be able to get to the back side of this thing once it's loose to get the wiring off. So no matter what I tried, the alternator would not come out the top. Jack the motor up as high as I could get it. There's a strut mount, they call it a torque strut, whatever they want to call it, that goes to the oil pan underneath that basically mounts the engine to the cradle to keep it from twisting under torque load. I undid that to see if I could get more height out of it. If this AC line wasn't in the way, it would come out the top. It wouldn't be an issue. But you just can't get it out. So I was like, all right, this is going to have to come out the bottom. So at that point, I was like, you know what, I'm going to take lunch. So I took lunch, and I was like, let me just see. Because like I said, the procedure that it gives you doesn't tell you anything. It really doesn't. I mean, like, that's kind of odd that it doesn't tell you anything. So I'm like, all right, let me do a YouTube search. And of course, I came across my buddies at South Main Auto, who make some terrific videos. I follow them, they follow me, type of thing. And I'd like to go meet them one day. Anyway, so I watched, they actually had the exact same car, same color, same everything. And they took it out, they did the same thing, they realized it wouldn't come out through the top. They took it out the bottom. And you got to unbolt the AC compressor and drop it at the bottom. Sure enough, once I did that, it fell out the bottom. So let me just show you real quick what I got here. I jacked it up. Always make sure you use a jack stand. The jack there is just supporting the motor because I had to like just jack it up a little bit because otherwise the alternator was jamming into the AC compressor. I didn't drain the AC. It's still all hooked up, the lines and everything else. But basically I just did that. It's just 4 bolts that hold it in place. Did that, and basically the alternator fell out. So now I'm going to get the new one ready, and I'm going to put the new one in place. Now with the alternator out, what you want to do is you want to compare the two, make sure they're the same. Make sure that the plugs are the same, make sure that the pulley sizes are close. You know, sometimes there could be quite a drastic difference, and it'll make a difference in your belt. But yeah, just make sure of everything. And like I said, that oil leak from putting oil in it, I think that's probably what killed that thing. Yeah, what you want to do too is, these are adjusters here, where the bolt goes through, it catches, and it'll actually pull that sleeve in to take up an adjustment slack. So you want to make sure on the new ones that they're bottomed out, so this way they can pull through, because otherwise sometimes it can get very aggravating. If you're putting an old alternator back in, stick a bolt in there and smack it with a hammer and drive that sleeve outward a little bit. Gives you room to play with going back together. Let's see, what else? The bottom bolt on the motor itself is actually where the bolt goes through. The mounting point is actually a slot. So I could put the bolt back in here, get this thing in place, and drop it so this will actually fit into the slot. I don't think I could show you that, but I'll try just as I'm getting it in place. I don't know if I'll be able to film it. So, but let me get this ready to put in place. Up underneath the motor here, that's the lower mounting point right there. And you can see, sorry, kind of hard to do this. That's a slot. So what I did was, on the new alternator, I have the bolt in place. So I'm going to pick it up and I'm going to drop it in there. Unfortunately, I cannot film this while I'm doing this. So I'll show it to you once I get it in place, and then I can start putting the AC and stuff back in place. Sorry if you hear any background noise. I have my fan going because it's quite hot. Alright, so now I'm underneath here. I got the alternator in place. Like I said, this bottom bolt here, this was, the bracketry was like slotted. So now I got the top one in place. Now what I was talking about before with these end pieces, see how the alternator is loose? As you tighten it up, this piece right here slides in and it takes up the gap. This helps set where the alternator actually sits. So a lot of alternators have that. If the alternator doesn't have it, usually the bracket does. It's very rare that one doesn't have it. Sometimes on older vehicles they don't have it. But yeah, so I'm just in the process of tightening that up, getting it in. I already hooked up the wiring harness that goes back there. It's just easier to do it now. I wish that the instructions would have said something about doing this from underneath, because I would have just done it this way from the beginning, but whatever. So this is the thing I was telling you about on the tensioner. This is what you grab. This is the tensioner itself. And this is what I was grabbing up top with that socket to actually twist this into place. So I just figured it's a good point to see it now. So as I tighten this up, it drags that end in, and now the alternator doesn't move as it gets tightened up. And as you can see, that got dragged in slightly right there. But yeah, so, okay, like I always say, reverse procedure to install. Let's get this thing together so my daughter can have her car back. So there you go, all back together. Just got to put the upper cover back on. Yeah, I mean, for the future, if I ever get another one of these, I know for a fact, just drop it out through the bottom. Make life much easier. I mean, at first I really thought it was coming out the top, but okay. Live and learn, make mistakes. It's just, I find it funny that all data doesn't tell you anything. I mean, literally tells you nothing. Just unbolt and remove. Okay. So, all right, let's go inside. It probably lost the codes, maybe it didn't. Some computers will hold the codes. So let's hook the little scanner up and see. So on this, the DLC is in this little cubby here. Let me let this load up, and then we'll come back to it. I don't want you to just sit here through this whole thing. So we're in ECM, and if you look up top there, it shows the voltage at 13.4. And I had the battery on charge the whole time, so it's got a fresh charge in it. The battery should be good in this. So let's just see. Nice thing about this is a touchscreen too. Yeah, alternator control circuit, PO620. So hopefully that's all straightened out now. Let's do this. Let's back up. I'm going to clear the fault code. Okay. Let's go to home. No, I don't actually want to exit diagnostics, but I do want to... Oops, I'm sorry. I didn't realize I went off of it. Actually, you know what? Let me go home for a minute. Okay. Let me just... It is showing that it's not charging. Interesting. And I have an alternator light on. Let me verify I plugged everything in. Pretty confident I did. Let me just double check. So I verified everything was plugged in. It's not charging. Still setting that code. However, that control circuit code, my daughter says the battery light was not on coming back. She specifically said it was not on. The check engine light itself was on, but not the battery light. The battery light is on now. What I did was, I found if I cleared it and cycled the key, as soon as I turned the key on, it came back. So I was like, okay. So I did some research on it, and I went through Identifix and all data. All data was very, very vague on everything, even diagnostics for that code. Surprisingly vague. And they get their stuff directly from Hyundai. So, I don't know. I don't get it. So, but on Identifix, they have a very good section where, hey, other techs had this issue, and this was a repair. I found plenty of situations of multiple alternator replacements to get it right. So, that was a Duralast Gold with a lifetime warranty. I took it back out. I wanted to check the wiring anyway, and in order for me to get to the plug in the back, it's really difficult for me to get to from up top. So I was like, you know what? At this point, I'm just going to take it back out because I'm going to exchange it. At this point, I'm just going to exchange it. I don't have any test equipment here at the house. I got stuff for the house, but it's at the shop. So I'm going to go grab that tomorrow, and I'm going to bring that home here. I'm going to have another alternator just in case. Now, hi, Gigi. Where are you, ding dong? There she is. Anyway, I'm going to have another alternator just in case, but I'm also going to bring my test stuff, like my meter, leads, and stuff like that. I did verify that I did have battery power down to it. All I did was I took a bulb and a wire just to verify that I actually had power. Oops, sorry about the light. I had one of these laying around. All I did was tag in this wire right here, and I ran that end down to the post on the alternator, and this end I just ran to the ground. And I did verify that I did have power there, but I really don't have anything else to actually do any other testing. So I pulled the alternator out. Now, pulling it out through the bottom, not bad at all. Doesn't look like it would be. It looks like it'd be easier coming out the top. That's why I went with the top first. So, epic fail on my part. Had I looked up South Main Auto and see that they had already done one, and they took it out through the bottom, I could have saved myself a lot of aggravation. But I figured, how bad could it be? Well, there you go. Live and learn. So, epic fail on my part. But yeah, so I'm going to leave this video at that for right now. When I get the other stuff and I come back tomorrow night, then I'll show you as I continue on this. Try to get this right for her. But yeah, so it happens to the best of us. Happens to all of us. Things don't go right. I make mistakes. So I figured, hey, I'll show you. I'm not going to hide when I make a mistake, I'm not going to hide it. I'll show you. I got no problem with that. So anyway, that's it. If you're liking my videos, hit the like button. If you could, please subscribe. Tell your friends to subscribe too. If you could share my videos, I'd really appreciate it. If you look down in the description, I have links to Amazon products that I personally use. I'm not asking you to buy anything, but if you could, at least click on something, because the clicks do help me. It helps for future endeavors, because I'm going to eventually set up a store once I have my t-shirts and everything else all set up. Then I'm going to set up a store and whatnot. So it does help me. So if you could, I'd appreciate it. All right, guys. Have a great day. Keep wrenching.